bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. We got a lot to cover today, so we'll get into it. Some housekeeping first. You can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is 617-297-8388. And, of course, the station is streaming 24/7 to the TuneIn app. So that means you can take us anywhere, and I love that feature. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that, no questions asked. I do stream the show, so I am streaming from the Cameo studio, so that means the Cameo cam is on. You can watch it on the station's Facebook page or YouTube channel, as well as my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and yes, live to Rumble. So many ways to watch, many ways to listen. Ted A behind the glass, flying the board back at HQ. He'll get you set up and into the studio at 508-871-7000 if you'd like to join the conversation. Now, when I get ready for the show, I look at topics and, do a little prep and say, I think I'll do this. But then news happens and craziness happens. And I sometimes I could do show prep the night before. Now I kind of do it an hour or two before the show because you don't know what's happening. We have this seizure of the tanker going on, so we can talk about that a little bit. We also have this breaking story with the ICE agent and a self-defense, a shooting, an ICE agent, federal agent. And I think that we need to remember these are federal agents. They go to the same training and they have the same powers, as long as the word special agent, arrest powers in it, as FBI and marshals and everybody else. The leftists seem to demonize ICE on its own. They aren't demons. They can't be prosecuted, by the way, to the Jamoke politicians out there who are saying they're going to lock him up. I think Swallow's saying if he becomes governor and so forth. Well, that guy needs to go away. Somebody who loves him needs to tell him to stop talking. He's making a fool out of himself. But there was a fatal shooting because a federal agent at the 34th Street and Portland intersection in Minneapolis, this woman decided to weaponize her car, to use her car, multiple 1,000-pound vehicle, as a weapon to ram ICE agents, which we've seen this happen over and over, and there's no consequences, or it seems that there's no serious consequences for those actions. So why not do it again? But this agent, fearing for his life and life of his fellow agents and even innocent citizens standing by, used lethal force in self-defense. This will be torn apart, investigated. Politics will come into it, of course. Now, the other part of this is Mayor Fry, right? Remember this guy, Jacob Fry? He wants to force immigration and customs out of the city. First of all, I think it's amusing he thinks he can do that he even has the authority. I mean, he can say whatever he wants. We all can say whatever, even though how delusional and stupid you might sound, you're allowed to do that. But a mayor of Minneapolis doesn't have the power or authority to tell federal agents how they can operate or where they can operate. But it plays to the base, right? Plays to the base. That's wonderful. And Minneapolis or Minnesota, I mean, they are targeted, right? They are under a huge microscope at this point. Yeah, my producer's saying recognize. Yes, it's attempted murder to wit motor vehicle. If you ram somebody with a car, you've instantly turned that into a deadly weapon. You've used it in a way it's not designed for, it's not meant for, and you've elevated the criminal action there. Also, I'm getting a text here just before I forget. Ambassador to the United Nations So the Somali ambassador to the U.S. happens to be one of these daycare administrators in Ohio, by the way. So we'll get more into that. I'm sorry, what's that?
I got part of that spelling wrong. It's the United States ambassador for Somalia.
Got it.
To the United Nations is also a daycare administrator in Ohio.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. You couldn't write it. I mean, writing rooms in Hollywood have to be jealous of this stuff. So these are things on the table to talk about, right? The ICE shooting in Minneapolis, the tanker being seized. I wanted to come on today. My intention was to talk about this vehicle miles travel, which we may have to table for today. But the VMT, this is a bill. We'll get into it because we have a Jamoke State Senator who's Cynthia Stone Cream. It would require the DOT to show a reasonable pathway to transportation sector emissions compliance. In other words, limiting what we can drive here in the Commonwealth and then taxing us if we exceed certain ones. But we'll get into this bill because depending where the bill is, these bills that are absolutely ridiculous, first of all, because we'd be living, where are we living? That the government is limiting your freedom and your ability to travel through taxation and limiting miles. It's absolutely crazy. It has to be unconstitutional somewhere. Should be challenged. But the point is, you kill these stupid ideas in the committee. You kill them before they get to the floor. And if it hasn't come out of committee or where it is, we have to fill the room, right? We have to do writing campaign, calling campaign, and show up and let these lawmakers know it is not something we're okay with. We also have that former Georgia Democrat lawmaker. She got charged, another one. Now, I know we talked about one before. Another one has been charged or pled guilty to COVID era fraud there. And a follow-up, guys, because remember the Wisconsin judge, calling me surprise, Wisconsin, right? Judge Hannah Dugan. She resigned a couple days ago because a federal jury convicted her of obstruction. And that was tied to last April of 25. If you remember this, similar to the judge here in Massachusetts, she went out in the hall in her judge's robes, berated the federal agents waiting to take somebody into custody, and then assisted that person, illegal, who had a deportation and hold order, all legal, out the back door, through doors and pathways restricted for judges and court personnel, similar to what happened here in Massachusetts. And she was convicted on the obstruction count, but she was acquitted on a separate concealing charge. And she resigned as Wisconsin Republicans publicly threatened to impeach her. Of course they should impeach her. She has no business on the bench. She has no business being a member of the board. She should have to give up, or they should take her law license away as well. Also, I wanted to make sure that we recognize that it's a year later from the Palisades fire, the aftermath there, and the fact that less than a dozen homes have been began being worked on. So there's something going on there that's far deeper, but we'll talk, if we have the time, a little bit about the Santa Ynez Reservoir being drained and the cover being slit. It's just so many things that were either inept incompetence happening there, and yes, it's under Governor Newsom's watch. Also, I wanted to get to, if we have time, another here, all this fraud. And I think at the beginning of the year with the Doge, and us really, even though we all walked around all the time saying, oh my God, there's so much fraud, there's so much corruption in government, but haven't we been doing it kind of we accepted it? It was so prevalent, so common that we just accepted it and it happened. But then we started to see just the ridiculousness and the blatantness and the amount. Well, we're strapped to make ends meet when we're getting slammed at the grocery store and we're getting slammed on our electric bills Now our property taxes are going up. And then yet the stupidity with the miles traveled bill being proposed. Constantly taking. And we see the billions upon billions of dollars that are being scammed and stolen and fraud schemes. And I've said this to you over the weeks as the stuff in Minneapolis and Minnesota was breaking. It's not just there. It is everywhere. California has a reckoning coming, but here in Massachusetts, we just have this $7 million SNAP EBT fraud charges being brought to some Mattapan and High Park guys on the SNAP and EBT ghost stores. Now, I've made reference to this because I know firsthand. I watch stores in Worcester. People go in with EBT cards. The store processes $100 and say meat sales, doesn't give them anything except $50 cash. So people will cash in, and because it's free money to them, 50 cents in the dollar is still found money. Yeah, it's absolutely. So now this ghost store has gotten busted here in Massachusetts. 150 square foot ghost store. They're putting between roughly $100,000 to $500,000 a month through the machine, the EBT processing. For 150 foot score, the other store is about 500 square feet. And the large supermarket in that area might do $85,000 a month. So these people, similar to our friends over in Minneapolis, they rent a 150 square foot storefront. They get a point of sale processor in there that gets certified to take the EBT cards, the SNAP cards, and then they run a scam with everybody knows. It's an ATM machine to them. Imagine $500,000 in 1 month. So if they're processing $500,000, they're probably pocketing $250,000 because they've given half of that, usually 50 cents on the dollar out. All right, and there's more stuff here, but there's a lot to talk about, folks. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. 508-871-7000. This is the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. We're going to take a break, our first break here of the Wednesday edition. We'll come back on the other side and take your calls and texts at that time. You can tackle any one of these topics. I'm going to get into the tanker and the ice thing in a second. Back in 2 and 2, folks.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing, fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing make sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available today. We'll get you set up and in there. So we have this, it's still unfolding. This shooting involved the federal law enforcement, an ACE agent, in South Minneapolis. It was the 34th Street and Portland Avenues in Minneapolis. Obviously, officials are saying to the residents, stay out of there. Tampon Tim did tweet something about, stay calm, stay out of the area. They're all Senator Tina Smith and Governor Tim Walz, and all of them, the city of Minneapolis, are all putting, hey, we will share more information as we learn. In the meantime, remain calm. All right. Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. Maybe they're taking their cue from Donald Trump on January 6th. But this was inevitable, was it not? Was it not? Because they were also throwing snowballs and ice balls at these agents. It's not the first time a car has been used. Several people have been arrested for doing that. People have been arrested because they've gone straight up and spit in the face of an ICE agent, which is an assault. It's a bioweapon in essence. So good, but what are the consequences? Why has the political class, mainly on the left, have allowed this to go on, and in circumstances have encouraged it? When you've got Mayor Jacob Fry saying something like that, it shows he doesn't understand his role as a mayor. He certainly doesn't understand the scope of his authority. He's playing to his base. He's playing to a certain part of the population that's out to lunch on this. And you got to put some of the blame on politicians who have not just allowed it without any kind of comment, but even encouraged it. And then when you've got, and this attorney general in Minneapolis, folks, he is not in a good situation for him. Good for us, because that audio of the recording about him saying he's going to help cover all this stuff and stop any investigations into the fraud is not looking good for him. So maybe an attorney general behind bars as well. But the scene at the shooting, of course, it drew large crowd, significant law enforcement presence there. And of course, Jacob Fry getting out there. And he's criticizing ICE, of course, before he knows any details, before he knows the circumstances of the shooting. He starts to speak as an idiot would, not knowing what's going on, and then not taking the position that he should be on as mayor, and that's of law and order. And he didn't come out to condemn the person who took a car and weaponized it for deadly force. He's blaming the federal agents who are there doing their lawful job in a lawful manner. So the agent had to fire in self-defense for his life and the lives of his fellow agents. And don't forget that in the last couple of days, and I don't think I got to talk about it on the air, but it's certainly in there if you're watching, Hilton is distance until, but the Hilton hotel there was not accepting the reservations of federal agents to stay at the hotel. They refused service to them, which, it's just interesting, right? Because remember a bakery that refused service on some principles, but this is encouraged and accepted. But Hilton, the corporation Hilton, not this hotel, which is a franchisee, but the Hilton Corporation immediately was trying to distance and say that is not the policy of the Hilton. And apparently, they saying that they seized or severed ties to that franchisee. Except an independent journalist went in there asking if there was a room available. Yes, his room is available. Well, who are you with? He says ICE. He said, we're not doing it. And they were able to look up his Hilton rewards. So if you sever a relationship with this franchisee, why do they have access to the Hilton rewards program? So this Hilton refused it. Hilton saying, no, we've severed that. This franchisee was not operating and acting within the guidelines of the Hilton franchisee, but apparently they still are. So this vehicle ramming resulted in self-defense firing, and the rioter has been killed. And when you use your car as a weapon, what do you think is going to happen? Now, remember that there was a separate earlier Twin Cities, St. Paul, where the ICE agent, or no, there's a DHS, Department of Homeland Security agent, and they are ICE. It was DHS is telling us this. Let me clear this. Department of Homeland Security said that an ICE agent was struck with an SUV. And there were shots fired in that incident, but no one was shot. But the ICE agents in St. Paul, again on the receiving end of a car being used as a weapon to do bodily harm and or murder, they fired. No one was killed in that, but they had to fire because they were being threatened, their life being threatened. And this is being allowed to happen because the politicians are both allowing it by not challenging it and telling people not to do it, and then actually instructing the police and the chiefs of police and prosecutors not to arrest, not to respond. When did this become acceptable behavior? Why are these people who are doing these things, and right down to the snowball throwers, if you're throwing a snowball packed with ice at a federal agent, you should be detained, arrested, and charged with the appropriate charges in that district. It just is. But we're not doing that. And why do we accept that? We should be outraged about this, because I know most of you listening to my voice right now, if you think about it for your second, thinking about growing up here, a lot of you are probably in the same age bracket of me. And I got to tell you, if I was in my 20s and I had thrown a snowball packed with ice at a police officer of any type, local, federal, doesn't matter, I would have been in jail for some time, at least for the night. Woo! Absolutely. And I probably would want to have stayed in jail, because if my father was still alive, I would not want to deal with that. So, yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
So, yeah, well, you knew my dad back in the day. I don't understand why this became something that we're not outraged about, because the police have been demonized by politicians and activists and media. They instantly take it. Now, look, I know that there are bad cops out there. Got it. And nobody dislikes or wants to tolerate a bad apple in law enforcement more than a good officer of the law, because of what it does to their collective reputation and their safety and the safety of their fellow officers. You cannot allow this. Now, if they are a bad actor and they're on your police department or a federal agent, FBI, I don't care, FBI, DHS, Homeland Security, whatever, U.S. Marshals, take your pick, there are mechanisms in place for them to be removed from that position and even prosecuted. They are there. And they're used. They're used more than the laws are being used against these people who are committing the assault. So I'm sure we will hear more and more about this as it comes out. But the other story that is breaking here, and you heard it, I think it was in the top of the news, has to do with another seizing of an oil tanker. And this is something I think we're going to see this on a regular basis because of the ghost fleets. Now, a ghost fleet or ghost ship is how we refer to these ships that change registration, will even sometimes change the flag they sail under in mid-trip because they're transporting sanctioned oil or illegal ill-gotten goods. So now, this morning, we're waking up to the news that the United States has seized or was seizing, and I guess in the final stages, of this sanctioned oil tanker previously known as Bella 1. So that's the original name of the ship. But they renamed and re-registered Mariana, and they displayed a Russian flag and registry markings. I mean, this is trickery that pirates have been doing for 300 years ago, 400 years ago, for Christ's sakes. Well, transitioning the North Atlantic. Now, apparently, we've been pursuing this and looking for it on the ocean for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. And again, it's sanctioned oil, the evasion of the shadow ghost fleet activity. And I guess according to all the news I could get, all the U.S. Coast Guard helicopters, enforcement personnel, and meanwhile, the UK, because where it was, the United Kingdom had His Majesty's Navy monitoring and supporting in the area. Meanwhile, Russia is reported to have a shadow escort with their naval assets, including a submarine. And they, of course, made official protests to the United States not to seize it because they need the oil. They need the revenue, guys. But hey, we have to take the mid-show break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN, AM 830, Radio Central, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. We're going to take a 2-minute, 2-second break. Back on the other side. Stick with us.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We've got showers ending early in the afternoon. Do watch out for any kind of untreated roads because they could still be slippery, especially north and west of Boston. But otherwise, it's going to run mostly cloudy, generally dry for the second half of the day with temperatures stuck in the 30s. Tomorrow, it's a little warmer, a little bit brighter. We've got high temperatures back in the lower 40s for the day tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Information central to your day from Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Join us at the corner of fresh and familiar. North Star Music, New England hits that made radio great. Evenings at 8 on Radio Central, WCRN.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eddie Arus with the Vascular Care Group. If knee pain is making everyday activities feel like a struggle, and you've been told your only option for relief is major surgery, think again. Genicular artery embolization is a non-surgical outpatient treatment that can dramatically reduce pain and improve mobility. It targets the inflammation that's causing your arthritis knee pain, and best of all, it's performed right in our office. To learn more about living the pain-free life, visit thevascularcaregroup.com with offices in Worcester and Sturbridge, Massachusetts.
I'm Lee Gaudette from Gaudette Insurance and the Gaudette Insurance Show. You're listening to Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
Never miss any of your favorite programs on Radio Central WCRN. For on-demand replays of this and other shows, visit WCRNradio.com.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding folks you can join the conversation because the lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And, of course, the text line 617-297-8388. Text it like anyone else. It appears on the screen here in the studio in real time. We try to work it into the conversation, and I want to remind you that this show is turned into a podcast as soon as I get off the air, and it's uploaded. So that means you can subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. It's usually about, when I take out the commercials and stuff, about 51 minutes. And also check out joemangishow.com. That's where the video of the shows will be posted, and then I post other articles and essays from time to time. Let's go to the phones. Ken's waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you? What are you going to take? The ice shooting, the tanker seizure? Pick one. What are we doing today?
Joe, you almost sound green behind the ears. I mean, this is what we've been watching most of our life. It's just more and more of it. I got to fill you in with
Exactly.
one.
Exactly. I think the thing is, Ken, we have become numb to it. And I think finally it's sinking in because the scale of the fraud and the amount of money that's been transferred from taxpayers to the fraudsters is beyond acceptable. Not that anything should be acceptable, but we know there's fraud. And I think in the big picture, people who can't, I mean, can you actually visualize 18 billion, never mind $1 trillion. Can you visualize $18 billion? I mean, if I paid you $1 a second, we'd be here for hundreds of years. And I think it's sinking in that a lot of our problems, Ken, it's not that we have a spending problem. We can spend money because we have a great economy, even though it's tough right now. But when we start to get it drilled into us that the fraud that we've known existed there, I mean, I can't remember a time where corruption and fraud didn't exist, right, growing up. But I think we're getting a different picture of just to the scale, the amount of money that we're being ripped off. It's as though, I mean, the amount of money being ripped off from the United States is bigger than most countries' GDP. It's too much.
Finances all of Somalia's GDP.
Yes.
What Minnesota's doing.
I mean, Somalia's GDP is $12 billion. I think Minnesota fraud alone will surpass that. And, Tim Walz's little thing the other day about Trump and Republicans hating brown people, he's the only one inserting race into this because no one's talking, all of the prosecutors and so forth are talking about the crime, the fraud, and the fact that when you look at the percentage, it's 91% of those convicted so far in like the feeding our future thing happen to be Somalia. That's just happenstance. It has nothing. We didn't prosecute. We didn't investigate Somalians. We investigated the crime. And just because over 90% of the people involved in it happen to be from one part of the world, we can't control that. And on the same note, are we supposed to do hands off because they're Somalian? Because that seems to be the messaging, is you're racist if you investigate them.
Joe, I don't think I've told you about C3 stabilization grant.
Nope, doesn't ring a bell.
Are you familiar with the YouTuber Mike Urban?
Actually, someone said that name to me just the other day, but I have not gone and looked at him.
You got to. Trust me. He's digging up all the fraud in Massachusetts. He specializes digging it up.
Oh, good. Good. Then I want to see that.
That's what the C3 stabilization grants are like. They're just like what they do in Minnesota. Yeah, they care. You got it.
Crazy.
All revolving around COVID. And yes, for 40 years, they had 2,300 people who registered, because you have to register to serve as daycare provider.
Yeah.
And in the last 6 years, it's 1,600. So it's kind of exploded since COVID, wouldn't you know?
I did see, and I don't know if this is the mic guy, I saw a clip of, a YouTuber in Minneapolis was going to one of these daycare centers, and the registered owner showed up in a white Rolls-Royce coupe convertible. This is about a $500,000. Well, they're probably more now. Okay, some of these Rolls Royces are approaching $1 million. Beautiful vehicle, obviously brand new, and he's accusing them of being racist and lying and all this other stuff. And he pulls out this little certificate, I guess, and it has. I thought it was funny because the seal on it, Ken, is like a teddy bear. Now I don't know if the state has a sense of humor. And so they put the official seal of a teddy bear because it's a daycare center. I don't know, or if it was a fraud. But he literally says to this YouTuber, no, you can just fill out the paperwork and you get the certificate license and then you're a daycare center and you're entitled. So he was saying, I guess the way I took it, Ken, is he's saying it's real easy. You just fill out the paperwork and you get a certificate for daycare center and then you get to charge. So they did it.
And you get millions.
Millions.
Millions and millions.
And we apparently, and I mean we collectively, not just Minnesota, but the federal government, has stopped any kind of process or safeguard to check attendance. So nobody's actually saying, hey, you need to keep a roster of the children that are there. And you would think if you're getting federal subsidies, that those children have to come from families below a certain income level, right? Maybe, and a lot of these programs, and I'm sure you know this, Ken, but other people are listening. A lot of these programs out there, folks, if you've gone through and you qualify for EBT, right? That opens up a bunch of stuff because a lot of other programs simply say, are you currently a recipient for EBT SNAP? Yes, I am. Well, then they've already done all the work. If you're getting EBT card, you're entitled to this, rent assistance and moving assistance and all these other things. So if they have somebody that they're receiving federal funds through the state, then I'm sorry, whatever expectation of privacy kind of goes out. If you are the recipient of federal funds, you need to be recorded, right? You need to be listed, and we should know who these people are, and then their attendance should be confirmed from time to time. Is that like too ridiculous to expect?
Of course not. But I got another term for you. We have to create our own language. They've done it. The woke language is gone rampant. And they love the word racist, don't they, Joe? Well, you know what we need to call them? We call them ISIS. You get it?
Almighty ISIS.
Hey.
Yeah. Sure.
Right.
Why not? I've said this, Ken, I'm sure you've heard me say this over and over again to people. Yeah, we have freedom of speech, that we're allowed to say whatever we want, short of yelling fire in a theater. We know that, the parameters of free speech. But see, free speech also means, folks, that we cannot be forced to say something. And we cannot be forced to use language we don't want to use. And they have done, on the left, a very successful job in forcing, media and people and to stop using the legal terms. Like illegal alien is the official legal term in our statute that describes somebody who's illegally in the country. But they've moved it to this undocumented and dreamers and all these other terms because of the connotation around illegal. But I'm sorry, it is what it is, and I'm not going to change it. I mean, you can make the argument that you are forced to look at a clearly biological male, but call them female. The same rights that say that person can identify as that also means you don't have to go into that language. Yes or no? I mean, we're not forced to use language we don't want to, Ken.
But Joe, you're being way too charitable to the old media, Hollywood, academia. They're Marxist Islamists and they want to destroy us. Wake up, people. It's now or never to say your whatever community you have. It's now or never. Put it in their face. They're fraudcrats.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if you want to take the time, folks, and, go on X a little bit and even Facebook and Instagram, plenty of people are sharing actual recordings of imams talking, or I just watched one this morning, Ken, of a female Islamic instructor on a program, and she's explaining under the Quran and Allah's law that Muslim men are absolutely permitted to rape non-Muslim women to humiliate them. That's part of the teaching. And I don't think the average person out there, especially when they have the gays or queers for Palestine flags, understand what's permitted under Sharia law and under Allah's teaching. We need to know this.
So we need to celebrate. So here we are picking out all the problems. But today's little fact, where is Donald Trump the most popular? What are the two nations he is the most popular among the men on the street?
Well, right now, Venezuela.
And Iran.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing I haven't talked about, folks. But I don't think I'm not going to say, I think, Ken, it's not getting the attention it should. The rebellion going on there right now, that the citizens are actually rising up against the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamic rule there. And let's not forget, we don't have to go way back in time. We go to the 60s and 70s when Iran was actually like the mini skirt capital of the world at one time. And they were very Western and progressive until the Islamic regime came in. And then they imposed Sharia law and women went back to second-class citizens and all of that. We're against the clock. Some final thoughts, Ken?
Follow two people, Goldie Garami, Iran, and Mariana Atencio, Venezuela. Topic!
You got it, man. Thanks for the call, Ken. Always appreciate it. Good call. Yeah, folks, this is... I haven't got onto the Iran thing. If you go to my social media, I have shared some stuff on there and made some comments about it because the people are leaking out the video. It's getting out in the streets. People are sick of living under, just like a lot of people in Gaza, Palestinians in Gaza. A lot of them are sick living under the Muslim rule there as well, but they're in charge. So we will talk about that. But we got our fourth and final segment to take care of here. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll wrap up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. We'll be back in two, folks. Stick with us.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
Junk piling up, garage bursting at the seams. It's time to call in the mighty at Mighty Movers. They don't just move, they remove. Their junk removal and clean out services are the fastest, easiest way to reclaim your space without lifting a finger. Whether it's yard waste, old furniture, garage cleanouts, or even hoarder cleanup, they've got the muscle and the mission to get it done safely and affordably. Selling your home or just tired of the clutter? They do offer full property cleanouts, demolition, and furniture delivery too. One call clears it all. Proudly serving Marlborough, Boston, Worcester, Framingham, and beyond. They're Central Mass's cleanup crew with a can-do attitude. Call 978-793-6165 or visit MightyMoversMA.com. MightyMoversMA.com. Mighty Movers. They bring the might so you don't have to lift a thing.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the fourth and final segment on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I said it earlier, I just acknowledge again a year from the Palisades fires. James Woods, I don't know if you follow him. He is so conservative for Hollywood, but he's also, I think, at that point where he has that FU money and he doesn't care and can't be canceled. But so he commented on it. But here's, for the record here, right? The Santa Ynez Reservoir in Pacific Palisades holds about 117 million gallons of water, and it was emptied in early 24 last year, or 2 years ago now. A tear was found in its floating cover, and it was offline still when the Palisades fire hit in early January of 25. So now we're a year later, recovery is still painfully slow. Palisades and Eaton fires, roughly 13,000 homes were destroyed. 31 people died in those fires. In less than a dozen homes have been rebuilt so far. And the part that makes people in the Palisades furious, because the LA Department of Water and Power finally brought the reservoir back online in late June of 25, and the system is now facing another drain-off period because they want to replace the cover. Now, this is right in the heart of Santa Ana wind season. That's crazy. And the question is, well, it was drained, and why are they still using, I mean, that's kind of an antiquated system, covering it. But why still using that? And why let it be drained so much? So there's a huge amount of ineptness and just neglect happening there. And that has got to come on to the state of California and the local governments that allowed this thing to happen. And now, based on conversations that I've had with people who have had homes there, what's going on with the insurance companies? I mean, they're trying to avoid these payoffs. And it's not moving because you've got to get the permits. You've actually got to get the insurance company to lay out the payment that will cover the amount of the permits, and the two aren't jiving in Newsom and the mayor out there. Nobody's doing anything to fix this. So that's crazy, but that's in the big picture, Lisa, what we need to worry about. But we should acknowledge the fact that it's been a year since those fires. Those people lost their lives. And if Gavin Newsom ever runs on the national stage in 2028, we should not allow that ineptness to go undiscussed at the time. And I mentioned at the top of the show that Judge Hannah Dugan, she resigned because of her actions in the courthouse, which were disgusting. It was also disgusting that we had a judge here that did that as well. And she was actually pardoned by Joe Biden at one point. But again, judges who violate their oath and violate the law have no business on the bench and have no business being members of the bar. They should not be activists. That is the branch of government where politics is supposed to be out of it. I know it's there, folks. I get that. I know you're saying, Joe, politics, they're always in it. Yes. Yes. And a judge may hold in their heart some kind of bias and lean a certain way, but their actions and their judicial debates should never show it. They need to use the Constitution and the statutes in front of them. All right. So Massachusetts, this one really, so Antonio Bonar, he's 74 from Mattapan, and Saul Islama, 21 years old in Hyde Park. They apparently, it looks like they're alleged here, their charges are $7 million and a SNAP and EBT benefits fraud scam going on because they have these small variety stores. Now they operated in Mattapan in this Huzulu variety store. It's only 150 square feet. And the Mixie store is 500 square feet. And now the authorities here are alleging that the store's monthly SNAP redemption ranged between $100,000 and $500,000 a month. Now that's way over what legitimate food sales could support and outpacing nearby supermarkets. As I said, one supermarket, big store, thousands and thousands of square feet, thousands of customers a month, they redeem about $82,000 a month. So investigators say they uncover the operations, documented these exchanges of the SNAP benefits for cash. Now, we all know, most of us know, that that's happening. Because when I brought this up in the past, that this happens, and I've mentioned a particular store in Worcester and Maine South, everybody seems to know all about it. So we know this is going on all the time. The question is, why is it still going on? Why is it still going on? These stores that get certified or authorized or sign up, and I honestly don't know how much it takes to take it, but I'm assuming it's a pretty easy process if you're a store that sells any kind of food, that you can get signed up to take EBT. Look, if you have a point of sale system that you can take credit cards and debit cards, it's nothing for them to turn on the EBT card, because after all, that EBT card you get issued here in Massachusetts is in essence an ATM card. It's a debit card. You have an account. The state dumps money in it on the first or third, whatever it is, and it sits there until you use it, and it rolls over. And that's taxpayer money and federal money, all taxpayer money, of course. Everything from the government is taxpayer money. So we're paying all that every month. And these stores, they should be checked on. And they should be tested. I just, the fraud is so open and abundant, and we allow it to go on is beyond what it is. And the other thing too, the charges for these two jamokes here with the phony stores, that they were selling donated Manipack meals. Now these Manipack meals are those meals that are produced for humanitarian relief. The particular one that they seem to get these food packs from is Feed My Starving Children. That sounds awfully like feeding our future. But both defendants are charged with account of the food stamp fraud, and apparently they somehow finagled these Manipack meals, and they were selling them on the EBT cards as well. So SNAP is funded by the taxpayers, and trafficking turns into a safety net, into criminal revenue, undermining public consent for limited targeted assistance. And then the money that's being taken fraudulently like this and scammed, the people who are hurt other than the taxpayer are the people who legitimately qualify for these EBT cards, SNAP cards. It's just wrong. And the Department of Justice alleges monthly redemption volumes widely out of line. That's just crazy. $82,000 for a big supermarket, and these guys are doing anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 in a month, and that's here in Massachusetts. So I said this a week ago. I said it 2 weeks ago. I've said it all the time, folks. When we see this fraud in Minnesota, we see this fraud in Ohio, we see it in it's absolutely here in Massachusetts. And I think the Healy administration is going to have to answer for a lot of things. Now, we only have a couple minutes left, so we'll hold a lot of this for tomorrow. But this Massachusetts Senate bill, 2246, remember that, 2246, would embed a statewide vehicle miles traveled reduction goals program into the MassDOT. So it's commonly being referred to as the VMT. So you're going to hear that. I hope you're going to hear this. And this is part of the planning of meeting the Commonwealth's legally mandated greenhouse limits. And the bill is filed by State Senator Cynthia Stone Cream. And this would require MassDOT plans and programs to show a reasonable pathway. I'm air quoting that. Remember that term, reasonable pathway, to compliance with transportation sector emissions limits. So that means it would direct the transportation secretary to establish statewide VMT reduction goals for 2030, from now to 2030. And then every fifth year after that. So that would create a 15-member intergovernmental coordinating council, just what we need, more bureaucrats telling us and restricting our movement and what we're allowed to do. And it would tend to develop a whole of government approach to reducing that VMT and expanding non-personal vehicle options. So the whole goal, guys, is to corral us into public transportation. Right? We've seen these efforts, the thing with the, ignoring local building regulations if it's within such, distance of a MBTA station, things like that they're doing, stuff to encourage mass transportation, public transportation. So now they're going to go after us individually. This is on the heels of Mandami saying in New York, from the coldness of capitalism to the warmth of collectivism, and his whatever tenant, I don't know, or title that comes on there and talks about individual property ownership, especially if you're white. Literally, she says that, which has gotten the DOJ's attention, because I'm sorry, if you're going to specifically target white people to get them out of housing, that's about as racist as you can get. But this bill, it did have a joint hearing back in May. And the legislator's official docket shows it was reported favorably and referred to the Senate Committee on Ways and Means. And that happened in early December. So it's moving through the channels here, guys. And it ties approval and structure of transportation planning to the VMT reduction as an explicit state goal, which means they're going to limit what we can drive and then tax us and punish us if we don't pay attention to the guidelines they give us. We'll follow this and we'll get more on this. But that wraps up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Thank you for joining me. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Don't forget, this is a podcast. Follow me at Joe Mangi Show and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Go out, folks.